I was born in Virginia almost 270 years ago. That was the year 1732. My birthday is February 22nd, although it was February 11th on the old style calendar used back then. That's fine with me. By George, I like having two birthdays, wouldn't you?
You see, George, today our birthday is celebrated each year on the third Monday in February. It's called President's Day. By George. It seems there's a chap named Abraham Lincoln who celebrates his birthday right along with us.
I went to school in Virginia where I studied spelling, handwriting, mathematics, geography, astronomy, morals, manners. My favorite subject was arithmetic. By George. I only went to school for 7 or 8 years.
I know what you all want to ask me. Did I really chop down that cherry tree? By George, you know I can't tell a lie. The story isn't really true. Someone just made it up to show that I was an honest person.
My father died when I was just 11 years old. I looked up to my older half-brother Lawrence. I loved to hear him talk about the Virginia frontier and his time in the military. By George, I wanted to be just like Lawrence.
When I was about 14 years old, I decided that I wanted to become a sailor, but my mother wouldn't allow it. By George, mothers always need to know the best.
If I could be a sailor, by George, I would become a surveyor. Someone who measured land. I love the beautiful Virginia woodlands, and surveying land meant I could do my work outdoors. I was fair and honest and would make a good surveyor.
When I was 20 years old, my brother Lawrence died. Someday I would inherit Lawrence's beloved farm called Mount Vernon. By George, Mount Vernon is the place I feel at home.
Although I never had any training, I wanted to take Lawrence's place in the military. I got to wear my first uniform in the military. By George, I love wearing that uniform.
I fought in the first battles of the French and Indian War. By George, I was only 21 years old. People thought my men and I were very brave.
I was often in danger. 4 times bullets came so close that they ripped my clothes. To top that, my horse was shot out from under me twice. By George, was I lucky.
I did not get married until I was 26 years old. By George, that was considered old back then. I married Martha Custis, a rich widow with 2 small children.
I never had children of my own, but I adopted Martha's children, Jackie and Patsy. They grew up by George, and the children later lived with Martha and me at Mount Vernon.
We were a happy family at Mount Vernon. We bought more land and our farm got bigger and bigger. We grew wheat and corn in our fields. By George, Mount Vernon was a big plantation.
Life on the plantation was not easy, although we had service to help us. Each day was filled with hard work. By George, Martha and I were tired by nightfall. We went to bed at 9 p.m. every night.
By George, I love my dogs. Their names were Needham, Moose, Sweet Lips, True Love, Taster, Sittler, Forester, Searcher, and Vulcan.
I loved all animals and made sure my farm animals were well cared for by birds. I even had grooms brush the horse's teeth every morning. Thomas Jefferson called me the best horseman of my age.
I love to dance and listen to music. We had many parties at Mount Vernon and lots of guests. They stayed all weekend by George. I love to play billiards and cards too.
What did I look like? I know you've seen paintings by George. They just didn't do my justice. I looked dashing in my uniform. I wore it every chance I got.
If you ever visit the White House, you'll see a grand portrait of me painted by artist Gilbert Stuart. It's the only thing in the White House that has been there from the start. By George, old Lily Madison risked her life just to save the painting when the British burned the White House in the War of 1812.
I was taller than my day. I stood 6 feet 2 inches, a good head and shoulders above everyone. By George, my wife Martha was a foot shorter than I was. She pulled on the lapels of my coat so that she could see my blue eyes.
By George, I hated wigs. The ponytail you see was my own hair. My hair was light brown, but it was fashionable to powder my hair and make it look white.
I was a good dancer even though I had big feet. By George, my feet were size 13. I loved to go to balls so that I could put on my uniform and dance the night away.
I didn't smile very often, but you wouldn't either if you had the toothache I had. I was always on the lookout for a good dentist who could ease my pain. By George, is your dentist around here? By George, my teeth became such a problem that I finally had them pulled, all except for the one that held my false teeth.
I tried just about everything to replace my teeth. I had false teeth made of lead and ivory, even some made of teeth from human sheep and cows. It has been said that I had teeth made from wood. By George, can you imagine the slivers?
I was 57 years old when I finally got my first set of convertible teeth, false teeth. Do you know what they were made of? Ivory, from a hippopotamus. By George, take good care of your teeth. Just like most people in my day, I did not like taking regular baths. By George, you don't need a bath every day. Don't you agree? I served in the first and second Congress in Philadelphia. Before long, the war began. By George, I'm talking about the Revolutionary War. I was voted commander-in-chief for 8 long years. We fought the British for our independence. I was General Washington during the War of Independence. By George, those were hard times. At the end of the war, I was so happy to go home to Mount Vernon, but soon I was needed to lead the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. By George, those 13 new states could not agree on anything.
We talked about our problems. We decided that the people should elect a leader. Who do you think they wanted? By George, I became the very first president of the United States. Our country had a vice president before it had a president. By George, Vice President John Adams was born 9 days before I was.
Why, you ask? Well, things were different back then. I lived in Virginia, and by George, I had to travel clear to New York City. That was 8 long days on horseback.
I was shy and embarrassed by all of the excitement. One time they called out the
President of the United States.
as I walked into the room. From then on, I made sure that I was already in the room before something like that got started again. By George, no more grand entrances for me.
I took the job as president very seriously. By George, there would be no shaking hands for me. I preferred to bow to people.
I miss Mount Vernon, and I wanted to be closer to my Virginia home. I wanted the Congress to buy land from Maryland and Virginia to build a new nation's capital. It was swampland then, but by George, look at it today.
It took 10 years to build the nation's capital. By George, that's a long time. Do you know where the capital of the United States was during my presidency? Philadelphia. That's right.
A grand house was built for the President of the United States. But, by George, I was the only president that did not live in the White House. It was finally finished in time for our second president, John Adams. During the time I was president, we created many laws and special laws. The government even issued money. By George, you know whose face they put on that $1 bill?
But there was so much to be done. I spent long hours writing. No other president wrote as much as I did. By George, I hold the record with 97 volumes. That was about 20,000 letters, journals, and lists of my activities.
By George, I served as President of the United States for 8 years. I could have been elected to a third term, but I wanted to go home to Mount Vernon. I love riding my horse around Martha's plantation, even in winter, and even at the ripe old age of 67. One snowy morning, I stayed out too long and got sick. I had what doctors today call strep throat and I died. By George, today you have medicine that treats it.
I would have liked a nice quiet burial, but that didn't happen. The whole country was sad about my death. By George, Americans are still talking about me 250 years later.
converted. My good friend and fellow soldier said these kind words about me. George, Washington was first in war, first in peace, and first in hearts of his countrymen, second to none. People remember me for my honesty. By George, I hope I will always be remembered that way.
By George, I have certainly been honored. Our nation's capital is known as Washington, D.C., and there is now a monument in my memory. It stands 555 feet tall.
I have one state named after me, 121 towns, 31 counties, 7 mountains, 10 lakes, and over 1,000 streets. But that's not all. There are also hundreds of schools and parks that have my name. And don't forget, you can find my picture on dollar bills, quarters, and money stamps.
That's all by George.
Thank you, boys and girls. We're going to let them each say their name, and then I hope you are all listening because I have some questions for you about what you just heard. So go ahead and say your name.
Laura, Claire, Rachel, Keegan, Abby, Ian, Emma, Deanna, Madeline, Ben, Noah, Joey, Luke, Elizabeth,